I believe that after the church has been raptured, multitudes of Gentiles will turn to God, not only in the Great Tribulation period, but in the millennium. Gentile nations will enter the millennium, and a great many of them are going uh, to like the rule of Christ, and they will turn to God during that period. I believe this will all with all my heart. And that concludes that section. Now let's move on to section verses 13 and 14. Verse 13. For I speak to you Gentiles in as much as I am an apostle of the Gentiles, and I magnify mine office. If by any means I may provoke to emulation them which are by my flesh, and might save some of them. Perhaps my translation will help you in understanding of these verses. And that's again is J. Vernon McGee and not me. It is, but I speak to you, the Gentiles, insomuch then as I, Paul, am an apostle of Gentiles, I glorify my ministry, if by any means I may move to emulation, that is, provoke to jealousy them of my flesh, and may save some of them. In other words, Paul says, in effect, I am an apostle to the Gentiles, and I rejoice in that. But as I preach to the Gentiles, I hope it will move many of my people to turn to Christ also. Paul, you remember, wrote to the Corinthians, and unto the Jews I became as a Jew, that I might gain the Jews. To them that are under the law, as under the law, that I might gain them that are under the law. 1 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse 20. This is the reason Paul went to Jerusalem with his head shaved and under an oath. He was trying to win his people to Christ. Should he have done this since he lived under grace? Living under grace means that he could do it if he wanted to. In his letter to the Corinthians, he continued, to them that are without law, as without law, being not without law to God, but under the law of God, that I might gain them that are without law. 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 21. In other words, he was obeying Christ. Then Paul says, to the weak became I uh, as weak, that I might gain the weak. I have made all things to all men, that I might by all means save some. 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 22. He was first of all fulfilling his office as an apostle to the Gentiles. In so doing, he was trying to move his Jewish brethren to turn to Christ. Some turned to Christ, only a few, but some. In all of this, Paul was fulfilling his ministry, and God was accomplishing his purpose in this age with both Jew and Gentile. I understand the satisfaction Paul felt in doing what God had called him to do. God has a place for you, my friend. He may want you to get busy and teach a Sunday school class, do personal work, or reach people through a business enterprise, or he may want you to support another who is really getting out the Word of God. Whatever it is, you will experience great satisfaction in doing what you are confident God has called you to do. Now, J. Vernon McGee goes into great length here. Beyond this, I think he skips a section over here because he went into great lengths here about his radio ministry and how that he is, the hardships of pastoring a church, and that he had really enjoyed recording the Through the Bible series. And